Hello, Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. This is Ashaunasis Reddy, Senior Rating Analyst of the Bangladesh Rating Agency Limited. Every month, BDRAL hosts a webinar addressing significant contemporary issues regarding the economy, industry, and businesses. Continuing the agenda, BDRAL arranges this month webinar on export policy of Bangladesh 2021 to 2024. We have some distinguished panelists with us who is going to shed some light on this topic. Before starting the discussion, let's get introduced to our panelists. Firstly, we have Mr. Nazmul Haidar, FCMA. Welcome, sir. Mr. Haidar is the president of iCaliper. He has around 30 years of experience as a diligent finance profession in different sectors. Then we have Ms. Zara Mahbub, Chief Executive Officer of Dun & Bradstreet Data and Analytics Private Limited. And yes, of course, as
Really, just a minute. We have also our chairman has joined.
Oh.
Let's say,
hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Good evening.
Yeah, Rajesh.
Good evening,
how are
sir.
you?
Very good. I don't want to disturb. Please carry on. Please
No. Just let me introduce with you. There's a panelist, as Nazmul Haidar, FCA.
Yes,
he's a very distinguished professional. He led
from
Perfetti Perfetti, Mexico, USA, Canada.
Hello.
Now he came back, and this is Rajesh is the umbrella of BDRAL. So I think we can continue.
Please. Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks, Rajesh.
As our keynote speaker, we have a profoundly knowledgeable and experienced professional, Mr. Ahmed Kushal Imtiaz, First Assistant Vice President of the Bangladesh Rating Agency Limited. Welcome, Mr. Ahmed.
Welcome.
He has around 10 years of experience in different sectors such as credit rating, ready-made garments, and many more. Last but not the least, we have our Honorable CEO, Sir, Dr. Saud Abdullah Al Mamun as the moderator. Before handing over to our CEO, Sir, I would like to add that we'll have a question and answer session at the end of our discussion. If you have any question, feel free to send us. We'd get back to you at the end of our session. Now I would request our CEO, Sir, to start our today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Riddhi. This is really a great privilege for all of us to discuss on the export policy 2021-2024. As we know that Bangladesh has achieved the landmark achievement of the export, that is $52 billion. In fact, which is in the last 3 years, almost there's a $12 billion export has been increased. So in this backdrop, on the other hand, our foreign exchange reserve is almost $40 billion. In fact, our foreign exchange reserve has also increased by $8 billion in the last 3 years. However, due to the global economic crisis, the expenditure of our import, the foreign exchange reserve is under pressure. In that context, export and remittance flow are the two major sources of boosting our foreign reserve position. So in this context, the government in the last year has given the foreign exchange export policy so that the export basket can be strengthened as well as can be diversified. So having that context, BDRAL is really great privilege to organize the program on the export policy so that the business practitioners get to know about the different initiatives and the policy support of the government, and they can capitalize the advantages of those policy support to boost their business and to diversify their business as well. But before going to start my part, I would like to take the opportunity to give the floor to our chairman, Rajesh Mirchandani, just to say a few inspiring words for us.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Mahmood. I think this webinar's topic is very, very timely and important. Till last year, we were never concerned about our forex situation in Bangladesh. I used to always say that Bangladesh is the hidden tiger of Asia, and I used to always pride on the fact that the Bangladesh taka was probably the most stable taka in all of Asia over the last 10 years, if I could just imagine. So I think even though we've achieved a landmark number, we cannot, of course, rest on our laurels. In fact, this time we have to work harder and diversify our baskets of commodities and goods that we are exporting so that we don't come under any forex crisis. There have been some talks in the media about Bangladesh going the Sri Lanka or the Pakistan way. Of course, it's just not possible because Bangladesh's economy is very, very stable. But in the given environment, we need to make it more sturdy and a much more solid economy, especially on the export front. So I would like to congratulate BDRAL for choosing such a timely topic, and I'm keenly awaiting to hear the proceedings. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your presence and giving the backdrop of the program. So at this stage, Riddhi, may I share the slide?
I'd like to request the host, please ensure that other participant can share their screen. Sir, now you can share your screen.
Okay. Okay, I think you all can see the slide, am I right? Yeah. So today's topic is that export policy of Bangladesh 2021-2024. So as we know, the backdrop that recently Bangladesh has achieved the landmark which crossed the $50 billion. In spite of the huge pandemic, it has achieved almost 25% or more than 25% growth in the export earnings. But as our chairman also mentioned that we are in a good position, but to become more resilient and to capitalize the potential of the economy, we have to be more cautious and we have to be more strategic and policy driven. So in that backdrop, government also realized it and government come up with this export policy. So we are the BDRAL is a subsidiary of the Dun & Bradstreet South Asia and Middle East Limited, and which is incorporated in the 2008 and received license in 2012, and now it's a full-fledged credit rating company in Bangladesh. We have already done 35,000 SME rating and 200 corporate and the financial institution. And it is a parent company is in Dun & Bradstreet. Dun & Bradstreet history is a 200 years old company, American company, and it has a lot of legacies and impact. Almost 90% of the Fortune 500 company rely on DNB data, and almost around 4x US president were the employee of Dun & Bradstreet. And Dun & Bradstreet DBSAM, we says, that is the subsidiary, looking after the operation of the South Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And they have almost 4.5 million content and 200 offices across the world and 100 quality check like services. And this is the DBSEMS. It established in 2003. It works in 67 markets in South Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And it has a diversified set of services, including risk management, credit rating, credit bureau solution, sales and marketing solution, economic analysis, research and advisory services, and financial technology. And BDRAL exclusively works with the rating agency of the DBSEM. And the key engagement of the BDRAL is it provides the credit rating services as well as some research and advisory services as well, including economic analysis, industry analysis, business advisory services, and ESG analysis. And it has the publication, that's an SME of Bangladesh series, is the collaboration of the SME Foundation. And we have also some impact analysis reports. And we do also organize the trainings on the financial statement and the risk management, business strategy, and financial planning as well. And our underlying objective is that we want to derive the truth from the data so that we can create the better insights to drive the better business decision making. And ultimately, we want to ensure the credible credit rating for sustainable growth of the company as well as overall economy. And this is the export trend of the last 2 decades. Here we can find that how it has been like increased even from 1819, it was only $40 billion, but in spite of the pandemic, it has crossed $52 billion in recent months. And these are the skeleton of the 4 drivers, in fact, of the foreign exchange reserve. And one of the drivers of foreign exchange reserve is export. So as the export is growing, though the import pressure after the pandemic creates some instability in the foreign exchange reserve, but the trend of the export should be maintained for stabilizing and strengthening the reserve position as they expected. So having this backdrop, we are going to discuss about the export policy in today's program, so that like our business community and the policymaker together can use these policies to strengthen the export basket as well as diversify its export basket. So with these few words, now I would like to request the Kushal Imtiaz, a First Assistant Vice President of the BDRAL, to present the keynote paper. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Riddhi, now you can allow the Kushal to share the PPT and present.
I think he can share the screen because okay. If
Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor to proceed with our today's presentation of export policy of Bangladesh. As our senior rating analyst, Ms. Riddhi, already mentioned, this monthly webinar is a part of BDRAL's knowledge sharing program, and in today's session, we'll have a general discussion on export policy of Bangladesh 2021-2024. Now let's proceed with our presentation plan, what we are going to cover and which sequence. We'll start with some economic outlook of Bangladesh. Then we'll talk about the theoretical concept of policy. Then we'll talk about acts regulating foreign trade policy, followed by evaluation of export measures, necessity of export policy, revealing background of export policy, objectives of export policy, implementation strategy in brief, export diversification, and we have some critical questions that we'll ask myself as a business analyst, and then we'll end our discussion and open for the question answering session. Economic outlook of Bangladesh. In this slide, we can see our GDP and GDP growth rate at constant price, and don't confuse about the dip that that we can see in the fiscal year 2015 and 16, because it represents that the base of the constant price calculation has changed in that fiscal year. Previously, it was used 2005-6 base year for the calculation of constant price. Then in 2015 and 16, it was changed to that fiscal year period. So for the fiscal year period 2015 and 16, we have actually no growth rate for our GDP calculation. And our GDP growth rate is 7.25% provision in fiscal year 2021 and 2022. And we managed to maintain up around 6% growth all through this 10 years period. Now, here is a comparison of global versus Bangladesh GDP growth rate. And you can see that this data is pulled from the IMF source. Bangladesh is doing much better than the world GDP average. Even during the COVID period, Bangladesh managed to secure a positive GDP growth rate of 3.5%, whereas the world GDP growth rate was negative 3.1%. This slide describes the per capita GDP at current prices. In the last 10 years, our per capita GDP has increased to 208,000 taka from 78,000 taka in fiscal year 2012 and 2013, indicating a CAGR of 11.5%. This chart describes the inflation trend of Bangladesh, as our honorable CSR already showed this graph to us. In June 2022, our inflation rate stood at 7.56%, and all through the last 3 years, our inflation rate was above 5.5%. And this chart describes the inflation comparison of South Asian countries, and this data is pulled from ADB Outlook report. And you can see that in the year 2021, the GDP of Bangladesh was 5.5%, but the lowest GDP was in Maldives, which was 1.2%. So in terms of inflation, Bangladesh always marked at the upper end. Foreign exchange reserve. Okay, in the last 6 years, our foreign exchange reserve has been constantly increased, and in fiscal year 21-22, it stood at 41.83 billion US dollar, which was $33.68 billion in fiscal year 2016-17. And now, this graph shows us a very positive picture of our foreign reserve, but we have to remember that data can misguide us if you don't know the story behind the data. So in the last 11 months of fiscal year 21-22, our import cost increased by 39%. And in the last 1 year, our inflow of foreign remittance declined by $3 billion US. And out of that $41.83 billion, Bangladesh Bank has already disbursed $7 billion US as an EDF loan to the exporters. So the story is not end there. Out of that $7 billion, many EDF loan was found to be misused by the exporters, and they are forced to become a forced loan. So up until December 2021, the amount of forced loan against those EDF loan stood at around 985 million US dollar, comprising of 4 state-owned banks. So although the pictures that we see in our screen showing us a positive vibe, but in a realistic sense, we have to be very much alert about our foreign reserve situation. And this graph shows comparison of gross international reserve of Asian countries, and this data is pulled from ADB Outlook report. And we can see that in 2019, our gross international reserve was 32.71 billion US dollar, and the lowest was at Maldives also, which is 0.75 billion US dollar. Trend of total export of Bangladesh for the last 10 years. As our Honorable CEO Sir, Dr. Momin Sir already mentioned, for the last 10 years, our export performance was gradually improving, which stood at $42 billion at the end of fiscal year 21 and 22. Now, it's a very interesting graph that you can see in your screen. It has 2 sets of variables. One variable considers the percentage of RMG shares in our total export, which showed in the bold yellow dotted line. And you can see that all through the 10 years, our RMG's contribution to our total export is minimum at 80%. And the second variable that you can see that 2 bar charts, and those bar charts are the composition of our RMG industries. If you notice, then you'll see that from the fiscal year 2012 and 13 up to the fiscal year 2019 and 20, our woven garments outpaced the knitwear sector in terms of export. But just after the COVID, the situation changed, and one can wonder that what happened in the fiscal year 22-21 and 21 and 22. The thing is that when COVID hit our global economy, restrictions took place in the people's life. So we are limited to, we are confined, or people are confined to their home. So they started using more casual attire instead of formal attire. And as a result, the knitwear export jumped in those 2 successive fiscal years. And this chart shows exports as a percentage of GDP. And you can see that Bangladesh GDP exports contribution to its GDP in comparing to other countries. And in 2022, Bangladesh export as a percent of GDP was around 12%, and Pakistan's was 18.66%, and Vietnam surpassed the GDP in terms of its export performance, and lowest is at the Nepal, which is 6.76%. Tax to GDP ratio, the data is pulled from the Ministry of Finance and World Bank, and you can see our tax to GDP ratio is low as compared to the other South Asian countries. Other South Asian countries, tax to GDP ratio is above 10% in varying years. but we are hovering around 7.5% to 8% in terms of tax revenue to GDP ratio. And this graph shows the ease of doing business ranking, and it compares only for the Asian countries. And you can see that Bangladesh was at 168th position in 2019 ranking out of 190 countries. Now, policy definition. A policy is a deliberate system of guidelines to guide decisions and achieve rational outcomes. In simplistic form, we can say that a policy is nothing but a workout plan to achieve some objective or objectives. So any policy document must contain two things. It must have an objective or objectives, and it must have some implementation strategies. And since our export policy is a part of a public policy, so let's see the definition of a public policy. Public policy can be generally defined as a system of laws, regulatory measures, courses of action, and funding priorities concerning a given topic promulgated by a governmental entity and its representatives. Now, this chart depicts the Act regulating foreign trade policy. We have our first foreign trade related act in 1947, which is Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. Then in 1950, we have our Imports and Exports Control Act. In 1951, we had our Sales Tax Act, which was later replaced by other acts. In 1969, we have our Customs Act. Now here I want to add something. Although we have import and export policies which give us an overall guideline for import and export, but detailed rules and procedures for imports for the purpose of exports. For example, procedures for import under bonded warehouses, procedures for import for export processing zones, and duty drawback facilities are issued under Customs Act 1969. In 1982, our Sales Tax Act was replaced by Sales Tax Ordinance, which was later replaced by our VAT Act 1991. Our VAT Act was replaced by VAT and Supplementary Duty Act 2012, which was in effect from July 2019. Evaluation of export measures. Now, before jumping into the evaluation of export measures, I want to share an interesting fact. Unlike the import policy, our export policy is not legally enforceable. So it's just a statement of intent. Although our export policy defines or states the status of our export products, but export restrictions are generally put through statutory regulatory orders. We have our export policy in place since 1972. After independence, our successive governments put more emphasis on expansion and diversification of exports. So our successive export policies are generally liberal and allowing exports of almost all kinds of products. In 1980s, minimum export price of jute was in place, which had been removed subsequently. In 1993, government levied export duty on some negligible items. For example, 15% export duty on wet blue leather and cotton waste. Since independence, the major focus of our successive export policies was to promote export through improving tax neutrality scheme and by providing various incentives. And this timeline shows the export incentives provided to the exporters. For example, in 1970, first duty drawback scheme was in place, and since 1972, it was updated several times. The duty exemption and drawback office was established in 1986. Then in mid-1970s, cash incentive was in place, and at first it was only for the jute product, jute product. Then in 1986, cash incentive was introduced to the textile and RMG sector, and at present cash incentives are given to 35 different categories of product. In 1978, export credit guarantee scheme was introduced, which was ensure loans in respect of export finance. In the same year, export performance license scheme was introduced, but it was later abolished in 1986. In early 1980s, a special bonded warehouse and back-to-back LC facilities was introduced along with income tax rebate. For the back-to-back LC, it was first introduced for the direct exporters, but in 1984, back-to-back LC was also introduced to the deemed exporters. Then in 1983, the first export processing zone was established in Chittagong, and at present, there are 8 export processing zones are in operation. In 1986, export performance benefit was in place, but in 1992, with the inefficient system of our exchange rate, this scheme was ceased to exist. In 1989, Export Development Fund put in place. And in our recent export policy, 2 significant or mentionable changes took place. One is borrowers are allowed to borrow up to 90% of the removable LC value. And another thing is that for the new industry, value addition must be at least 30% to claim any export incentives. So necessity of export policy. Our Ministry of Commerce is following our export-led growth strategies, and our policymakers want to attain a certain level of export growth through this export policy so that massive employment can be created, optimum balance can be made between import and export, and significant contribution towards national economy can be ensured. Now, having all that three in mind, our government's preferential plan for the economic development, the demand consideration of exportable items, and to cope with the international business situations, our policymakers are providing or updating the export policy in every 3 years. Now here I will discuss about the factors that influenced our policymakers when they were preparing this export policy. The first factor that our policymakers keep into consideration is the graduation from LDC to developing country status. It is very much obvious that the graduation towards developing country status will brighten our country image, and it will also attract many foreign investments, but at the same time, it will also pose some challenges. Our exporter will no longer enjoy the duty-free and quota-free access to developed and developing countries. In EU zone, we lose our export competencies under EBG scheme because it is suspected that the average duty will be increased by 10%. We have to adopt and maintain strict rules of origin. A special and differential treatment given under WTO's or all World Trade Organization's various agreement will be limited. We have to maintain strict compliance and quality standard. After the Rana Plaza and Tajin fashion incident, the compliance status for our RMG industry has improved tremendously. But I cannot say the same thing about our textile industry. Terms of foreign aid may become harder. Yes, as we know, in our recent 22-23 budget, we will source around 115,000 crore taka from foreign assistance, including foreign debt, which is up by 21% from the revised 21-22 budget. So we are increasingly become more dependent on foreign assistance for our economic development. So we have to be very much careful or alert for the conditions that other lending party will impose on Bangladesh. For example, recently, Bangladesh government has approached IFC for a loan, for a 3-year loan, which will be, and obviously IFC will put some conditions, and one of the conditions may include lift the interest rate cap from the economy. So if that happen, we actually do not know what impact it will bring in our business sector. Subsidized and cash incentive may not be accepted by many importing countries, so the cost of doing business will be higher in those zones, and we have to our export competencies, we lose our export competencies in those zones. We have to enforce to ensure safeguard of labor rights. And keeps, it is very much related to our pharmaceutical industry. After the graduation towards our developing country status, we will no longer enjoy the patent waiver and other patent related relaxations. So our cost of medicine may become higher. COVID-19 situation, pre-COVID situation, in a pre-COVID era, we hit a GDP growth rate of 7.88% in fiscal 2018 and 19. And during the COVID period, our GDP growth rate tipped down to 3.45%. And then we have a good come around, and our GDP is provisioned to be 7.4% in fiscal year 21-22. Now, in order to sustain that level of growth and to check the inflation at a tolerable level, our policymakers must felt that importance of appropriate money management and financial stability in place, and our export policy must address those issues with the proper guideline. Government's 8th 5-year plan. Our government's 8th 5-year plan put emphasis on creative employment, participative development, climate change crisis, and LDC graduation. And our government's perspective plan 2021-2041 set two big targets. One is to become an upper middle income country by 2031 and to become a developed country by 2041. So while developing the export policy, our policymakers had to keep in mind that their policy must be in line with those government plans. Now, the fourth industrial revolution give us the concept of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, big data, 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing, etc. Now, as the tremendous improvement take place in the field of artificial intelligence and quantum computing, it is suspected that many low-skilled and repetitive tasks will be replaced by machines. So many of our workers will lose their jobs. To safeguard against that, government need to put some policies which will encourage the skilled manpower in IT and ITS sector and with a proper IT infrastructure. Now, I will list some of the major objectives of our export policy. One of the main objectives of our export policy is to maintain continuous connectivity with WTO, India, and countries with which we have economic partnership and bilateral agreements. Another objective is to be with China's One Belt, One Road initiative. Then to establish a strong trade relation with South Asia's emerging economies. Develop connection with promising sub-regional Quad, which is Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and Bhutan. Another objective is to take steps to attain export target of $80 billion by 2024, to increase exports of labor-intensive and non-traditional items, improve the quality of exportable items, testing facility, and certification to a world-class level. We have to ensure sustainable investment in export sector, and we have to give policy support to produce exportable items using a circular economy model. Now, this is for your information that circular economy model has 3 principles. Principle number 1 is to eliminate waste and pollution. Then principle number 2, circulate products and materials at their highest value. And the third principle is to regenerate nature. Implementation strategies. Now I will state some of the implementation strategies of our export policy. One of the major implementation strategies is to build effective connections among trade-related ministries, trade associations, and chambers, and to provide coordinated and specific workout plan. Then to give necessary support to trade-related offices and trade associations to build up export-related capabilities with coordinated efforts. To modernize and accelerate economic diplomacies through missions in foreign lands. Give specific targets to various government commercial wings for promoting for product branding and market expansion, and then evaluate their performances from time to time. Give policy support to establish warehouses in Europe, America, Eurasian Economic Union, which includes Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Russia, and Mercosur bloc, which includes Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay, to expand country branding. To reduce trade costs and shorten lead time by ensuring uses of automation, e-commerce, and e-governance, improving port management, trade logistics, and communication support, simplified product loading and unloading system. Then another strategy is to establish market intelligence for different trade bodies through Bangladesh Trade Portals, Export Promotion Bureau, and through workshop and seminars. Train up the management personnel to improve productivity and skills by establishing MOU or collaboration program among government offices, industry, academia, trade bodies, and chambers to build the foundation of research and cooperation, and to build up sector-wise training institute. Then to give necessary support for internationally accepted product quality certification system, and for this, mutual recognition agreement can be made between promising exporting countries. Then another implementation strategy is to accelerate the introduction of national single window service, which will be provided to the companies involved in international business. Then provide incentives, low interest support to export loans with simple conditions. Remove obstacles for the local companies involved in the production of imported raw materials, for example, API, to sell the goods to export-oriented companies by cash or LC or back-to-back LC. To help business to establish necessary infrastructure and forward thinkings. To provide necessary policy support for ICT, software, BPO, tourism, and freelancing sector. Now, strategies to mitigate LDC graduation challenge will be government will take proper initiatives for a free trade agreement, preferential trade agreement, comprehensive economic partnership agreement with promising countries, and modernizing the existing FTA guideline and keep negotiations on for the membership of regional trade bloc. Then to recognize the special and differential treatment for developing countries, and to achieve that, government will take necessary steps. And then to extend the existing SND benefits to a reasonable time period, our government will take proper initiatives to earn the support of various WTO forums. Export diversification. With the initiative of our Ministry of Commerce, Business Promotion Council have been established under the Companies Act 1994. And the Business Promotion Council will address the issues like export diversification, product development, quality assurance, and compliance maintenance, etc. And through the export policy, the operations of the existing Business Promotion Councils will be strengthened and integrated, and in future, more Business Promotion Councils will be introduced. Now, government, as a part of our export diversification program, our policymakers categorize two special sectors namely highest potential sector and special development sector, based on some criteria, some of which include production potentiality and the layer of supply chain, and the international market demand and its export potentiality, etc. The highest potential sector, and this sector has a special export potential, by what could not give the benefit of this highest potential sector due to some gap, and it is believed that if given necessary assistance, more success can be achieved. And our highest potential sector includes 16 different types of products and services, and some of which include high valued R&G or denim, garment accessories, pharmaceutical products, plastic products, leather products, jute products, etc. The special development sector has export potential, but the production, supply chain, and export base is not integrated. And this sector includes 21 different kinds of products and services, some of which include electric and electronic items, ceramic items, processed fish, paper and paper product, etc. Now, benefits that will be provided to the HPS and SDS sectors are: give project loan at a lower interest rate, provide tax holiday for a certain period of time, give financial facility or capture society in line with WTO's agreement on agriculture and agreement on subsidized and countervailing measures for providing utility service, give export loan at a lower interest rate and on easy conditions. Benefits provided to the social continues to give preference on air travel, to provide duty drawback and bonded warehouse facility, and infrastructure development for reducing production cost, providing institutional and technical support to quality improvement and assurance, and provide import duty-free capital machineries for compliant factories. Now, as a business analyst, I want to see more number. So after studying our latest export policy, this critical question came into my mind: what should be the reasonable growth rate? So to be a developed country by 2041, so what should be the regional growth rate that we should attain, and it should be sustainable? How much employment should we need to generate? What is the optimum import-export trade balance? And what measures should be used to calculate the contribution of this export policy? So this is all about my presentation, and thank you for having me and for your patience.
Thank you. It was a great presentation, and I think everyone agree with me that we learned a lot. Now I would like to invite Mr. Nazmul Haidar to share his insights with us, and I would like the host allow him to share his screen.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Mamun, for inviting me these excellent webinar sessions. I really enjoyed a lot. And thanks, Imtiaz. It was an excellent presentation, and the informations, I learned a lot. So I'm now, that I just came back Bangladesh after 10 years. For me, it's like a time machine journey. So I left Bangladesh 10 years ago, and now I'm seeing a new Bangladesh, and everything, a lot of things, positive, negative, many things changes. So I'm now representing iCalipers, which is a management consulting firm, and this is only 1 month old. It's a startup management consultancy house. So and when I was just, I just got an invitation from Dr. Mamun, and I was just thinking that probably it could be a good idea. So to do some due diligence, some analysis about our whole the export ecosystem and the mechanism, how it's going on. So like what is, it's very nicely portrayed by Imtiaz, that what is the export policy, what is the door, and what is the strategy, and the challenges and the opportunities. So, and it covered very well. So now I would like to, that show my point of view, like if I would like to consider all the stakeholders and put everything in a one pyramid. So the policy, the export policy I've seen, that is excellent piece of work. There is no doubt export policy in Bangladesh is very good, very strong. So I can see it's a very open, very motivational. They give a lot of incentive. So there is no doubt about the policy making as a stakeholder and the strategy. And the second, another very powerful, which is the private sector. They are the backbone of this whole export. So that is also our another very strong stakeholders. And the third one, definitely our resources, our peoples. So they made everything happen, our resources and the people. This is also our another strength. And the fourth, definitely product and services. I cannot say fully that we are very strong in the product and services. Yes, we probably were strong, like we started from 70s, 80s, 90s, now is 2022. So there is a lot of opportunity area in this product and service to bring something new, because things is changing completely. So I think that is the area, the product and the service with the innovations that we need to focus, and we need to do something. And the result and achievement, definitely this is excellent result. If I can, when I left Bangladesh, I saw that it was like only 7 billion now, and now is almost 30 billion BDD, which is like almost 400% the growth. But the most interesting part is that if you can compare with the BDD versus the US dollar, the growth is 400 versus 200. So almost 200 is depreciated for the exchange results. So that is another big risk factors, because the taka is devaluing. So that is another, and risk factor. So when you're converting from the BDD to the US dollar. So that is another thing we also need to do something. But result wise, I would say we are not bad. We are good. We are good. Till now, we are good. And another very, very important thing, infrastructure and logistics, I would say that is another big opportunity area where we need to look at it. And the last one is the implementation. So when we are talking about 2022, so many countries, they're focusing mainly, they're developing a lot with this infrastructure, logistics, everything, and regarding the implementation. So implementation part, I think there is a lot of things we need to focus. I was just watching the Imtiaz, some statistics number. So Vietnam is emerging. Their export with the GDP is more than 100%. And we are only 11 to 12%. So is a high risk for us. So we cannot sleep now with a good result, because a lot of new innovation, new countries are coming. So we need to be focused, very focused with the implementation side. And with this, the whole pyramid, I was just, I was in last 10 years, I was couple of countries I work in China, Mexico, and the USA. But I really love the way Singapore portrayed the export. So now in the whole the countries, the whole world, they are 15 number. But their number one drivers is that they are the global trade hub. That is their strength, and that we are missing in our country. And their economic stability. So that is also another one, and the business friendliness. I was very interesting. What I understand, the easy of the business easiness in the ranking, we are 168. So when we are talking about the export policy, I think regarding the implementation side, we are in 168, correct, Imtiaz? If I'm not wrong, 168. So this is the opportunity area. So we maybe portrayed a lot of nice things, but we need to improve the process. And that should not be the rocket science. And those are the things we need to push in this era. And the China, I've seen, like I was in China, so their leadership, new open China, they have a lot of special economical zone and massive productivity with the economical scale. And the USA also same, like where they have a very strong workforce because they pay a lot when they are working with the export driven company, and the exporter also, their company growing very fast. And they are always innovative in the US side. So that is their another very strength, because probably they are number 2. But I would say when innovation is taking place, definitely is very stable. And Mexico, I've seen, like Mexico, despite beside the USA, so they are very good in the logistics. They're very good in the export incentive, and definitely they are beside USA, and they are getting some the good support. So and in Bangladesh, we are number 53. So where you want? So we need to think that where do we want to go? So let's say if you want to go to number 41, same like our economical size. So maybe, because what I understand in the export policy that we want to achieve $80 billion, right, Imtiaz? So for me, like if now we are 52 to 80,
Yeah, correct,
very
sir.
high. Sorry. Yeah. So this is very highly ambitious target, very highly ambitious target. So compare everything, looking everything. If we really want to focus a little bit, I just put a couple of things. Just there is a IMF study. They're saying that for the backbone of the export should be governance, education, infrastructure, and the trade policy openness. I think the trade policy openness, we are good. Infrastructure, we need to develop. Education, we need to develop, and governance. So the backbone of export is if there is a factor, is a 4. So we are very weak in 3. So that also we need to focus. And our major challenges, as I said, that definitely inefficient and inadequate system of the transportation, logistics, customs, poor connectivity, telecommunication, financial market, IT, complicated environment, which is sometimes the demotivating, like the behavior and everything. So that also need to be improved. Anti-competitive behavior on the innovation, productivity, and market growth, as I said before, and as I said, that product diversification and the innovations. So I think the one picture is that is itself saying that we are behind with the business process easiness that we need to develop to catch our 2022 beyond 2024, whatever the good policy we have, and whatever the product and innovation, what you were saying, and BPO and all this stuff, I think still those are backdated. So I really love to show this picture. So now at this 2022, we are like that thinking about how we can do transportation to Mars, from the Earth to the Mars. So in this era, so if you can really think about something very backdated product, that will not work. So we need to catch all these things in our product portfolio and the innovation from the service side. Like for an example, like artificial intelligence, and a lot of things is happening in the world. So we need to educate we have a very intelligent resources, young generations, we can educate them, they can give a service. And that also could increase and give a very good pace to our export beside the product. So last but not the least, so I think that is the all the takeaway from my side and my observation regarding our export. So if I can conclude my the whole observations, so I always love to say we need to focus, we need to make easy our process for the business. I know after I came back 10 years, I saw many companies having a lot of litigations. Foreign company have a lot of litigation with the government. I don't want to say the name of those company. I understand some companies having litigation, 500, 600 litigation with the customs. What the message we are passing to the world? So is the message we are passing to the world that the business in Bangladesh has become very complicated. So that we need to make it easy to the foreign direct investor and the foreigners to do the good business. And we need to focus more on the new product, new innovations. And the last is definitely the whole world is challenged with the supply chain. And that is the something we need to focus and improve. And maybe that could be another service we can offer. We can much ahead than our other competitor in other countries. Yes, that's all from my side.
Thank you, sir. It was a very insightful presentation. Now we'd like to take some questions. If you have any question, please raise your hand so that we can allow you to talk.
Is there any question or comment, like anyone? Yes, Riri, I think like one question.
Mr. Khan.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aisha Sridi. I would like to ask to Mr. Imtiaz. So
Yeah, I think there is any technical problem. Okay. Meanwhile, is there any other questions? Okay. So meanwhile, I have a question to particularly Mr. Nazmul Haidar, because he works in a different type of business environment. So one of the challenges we found in terms of our export, that even in the garments comprises almost 85% of our portfolio. So when there is an issues of the value addition, like we do import of the raw materials and export. So in between, the value addition part is very small. So this is another challenges we faces. Number one. Second one is that cost efficiency is another major challenges. Okay. So could you please share about these two challenges? How can we or our policy can address it? Because in our export policy, we do not find isn't too much is a clear impact or clear direction about these two elements, like the value addition part as well as in the cost efficiency.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mamun. I think you're right that in our policy, there is no very clear-cut, nothing mentioned over there regarding value additions. But you rightly said that our margin, particularly the profit for the Bangladesh, only for this service is low. But the good part is that, so there is a foreign currency money flow which is coming. That also, the strengthening the foreign currency reserve. So that is the positive side. And regarding that, how we can increase the service, maybe we can think about more like a supply chain side, like a backward linkage. So at the moment, like when we are importing the fabrics, so a lot of other the garments, so they also doing some from cotton to the finished goods. So in those backward linkage, when we work with a lot of those components, maybe we can add value, like not only the stitching, so stitching part. So we can go to the backward linkage, add more value, and earn more foreign currency revenue for this RMG side. Yeah, so that is one. And other side, definitely there should be like also there should be some good incentive and the policy for the owners. So owners should bring the whole money to the country, because that there is a lot of offshore banking and a lot of like offshore channels over there. So transfer pricing issues are there. So if we can provide them very good incentive in terms of the taxations and in terms of the foreign exchange rules and regulations, because we have one side, we have restrictions to pay outside the country. So that restriction need to be a little bit relaxed. Then nobody will open an offshore bank account, because they need to also pay to the samples and many expenses to their their buyers, and they're managing those things from there. So if we can really make it open, everything will be easier. If we can make the thing strict, so there will be a transparency, transfer pricing, governance, a lot of things will be jeopardized. So we need to make our policy easier.
Thank you very much. I think now Mr. Sohail Khan, can you hear now? Okay, now you can put your question.
I'm extremely sorry for the uninterrupted due to some network issue. I would like to ask Mr. Imtiaz that you told us that more than 80% is the export is coming from the RMG sector. So what should be the policy, and what is the present policy for the diversification? Because we are only dependent on the RMG sector. Can you focus on that part? Government, do the government has any other diversification issue or other possible opportunity will become to the Bangladesh, that in that sector Bangladesh can export also?
Yeah, thank you, Solvay, for your question. It was a very good question, I'll say. So for the diversification part, I think we are lag behind in implementation stage, because many of our promising sectors is not flourishing only because of the implementation. For example, if we say the leather and leather products, this sector has been suffering for the last 20 years only for the central ETB, and still the central ETB facilities has not been fixed. So due to that, many European buyers who used to purchase from our country were cancelling their the contracts, and they were going to other countries. So I think in the implementation stage we are very much lag behind, and that same thing can be said about our frozen fish sector, because in once couple of years back, our shrimp and crab sectors was very much promising, but due to the unethical business practice, we also faced some penalties. And another promising sector that could be it is the agricultural sectors, but due to the misuse of the phytosanitary certificate, that means when you want to export vegetables from Bangladesh to other countries, that will require the phytosanitary certificate. And here in our country, along with the customs and other government agencies, our business our entrepreneurs are generating, or some of our entrepreneurs are generating fake phytosanitary certificate, which also impact in the export performances. So at present, our vegetable export is not that much promising. So we see that it is a combination of two things. One is the implementation stage, and another thing is the ethical business practices. And in those two components, we are really lag behind. And if this can be solved through our policy and through the punishment system, so I think we have a much more promising sector which can earn more foreign exchange.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Is there any other questions? Otherwise, we may listen the comment from our respected chairman.
So thank you, Dr. Mamoon. Thank you so much, Mr. Nazmul and Mr. Imtiaz. Thank you for your insightful discussions. I really think that it is for us to lose this game, because with the kind of opportunities that are in front of us with our reasonably trained workforce and our demographics in favor of the Bangladesh economy, I really believe that things are in our favor if we just get down and start doing some serious work. Pharmaceuticals is, I think, a very, very critical area where if we get down to it, we can become a reasonably interesting manufacturing hub in the area of pharmaceuticals also. Why does it just have to be RMG where the value add is not so high? So I really think that the winds are in our favor, provided we have reasonably adequate government support, because all countries have come up because of government support, whether it's in the form of subsidy or regulations or ease of doing business. So I think we should all take a look at how the ease of doing business can improve, whether it's taxation, whether it's infrastructure, whether it is all the regulations that are in place. But I really think Bangladesh still has a great opportunity to become an important player for the entire world. And it will be really sad if we lose this opportunity. It will be really sad.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I think this is a great moment for all of us that you join with us and participated in the discussion. And like all previous programs, we will continue to discuss about the contemporary business and economic issues. Yes. And as a knowledge-based organization, BDRAL, as a DNB SAM company, is very highly committed to work maintaining high professional ethics as well as high quality financial and business analysis support to strengthen the financial structure and to help the economy to exploit all of its potential to grow. With these few words, again expecting your wholehearted participation in future. And last but not least, we are really grateful for the presence of our respected chairman, Mr. Rajesh. And we know that today is the holiday for him. In spite of that, he spared his time with us. This is great inspiration for us.
Not at all.
And Mr. Nazmul Haidar, he is the icon in the corporate world of Bangladesh as well as in the global area. So his inputs is really worthy for us, and we also expect that his advices and mentoring will be always for the BDRL, so that we can play our expected role. And my colleagues, Imtiaz and Ridi, did a fantastic job, and it's a teamwork. In fact, all of them have given a very good inputs, and the BDRL works as a team to achieve its goal in line with his strategic journey. So thank you, my beloved colleagues, to build a very strong team to carry our journey for creating impactful credit rating and business analysis services. So thank you and good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Nazmul. Thank you,
Thank you.
Riddhi.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Good
Bye,
night.
Kushal. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night.
Mhm.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye. Bye.